I, Riley Grant, was reborn back to Christmas 1975. At that time, I was only 3 months pregnant. I told no one and quietly had an abortion. But from then on, I still wrapped my belly with padding every day, pretending to still be pregnant. This was because in my previous life, my husband Wyatt Cortland's first love Grace Wilson and I gave birth on the same day. She successfully delivered a healthy baby boy, while I gave birth to a mixed-race child. Wyatt flew into a rage and publicly denounced me as a slut, saying I had an unspeakable relationship with a foreigner. I desperately tried to explain, crying repeatedly that the child wasn't mine, but no one believed me. Not only that, he also took the initiative to report me, turning in several foreign letters he found in our home. I was taken away by the FBI and sentenced to prison on espionage charges. I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. When I was released, I was nothing but skin and bones. Wyatt, however, was promoted for his merit in reporting me. That day, he held Grace's hand and my biological son's hand, throwing me $500 like charity. He said Grace was accidentally deceived back then and got pregnant. Unlike you, she's too fragile to endure hardship. I had no choice but to switch the 2 children. This $500 is compensation for your 10 years and your innocence. You have a criminal record now, and I've already filed for divorce and gotten together with Grace. Our son also thinks you're not worthy of me. You'd better take care of yourself. My son also looked at me with disgust. Grace is very good to me, and you've been in prison. I don't want a mom like you. The moment I learned the truth, I was so angry I coughed up blood and died. Now that I'm living again, I want to see what they can use to scheme against me, this time without a child. Returning to the Cortland house from the hospital, I ran straight into Wyatt helping Grace prepare to go out. Fortunately, I had wrapped my belly with padding beforehand to conceal the truth, so they didn't notice anything unusual. Grace smiled and said, "Really? My stomach feels a bit uncomfortable." I mentioned it to Wyatt, and he said he'd take me to the hospital for a checkup. Look at him, making such a big fuss over a small matter. He's so responsible. When you have your baby, he'll definitely be a good father too. If it were before, I really would have fantasized about raising children with Wyatt because of her few words. But after being reborn, I realized how ridiculous I had been, actually believing that Grace and Wyatt genuinely cared about me. Their eyes fell on my belly without a trace of concern, only naked greed and calculation. In my previous life, I never noticed that Wyatt, my husband, cared far more about Grace than me. Even when we went into labor on the same day, I was still foolishly thinking how coincidental it was, and if the children happened to be a boy and a girl, we could arrange their engagement in advance. After the children were born, Wyatt rushed into the hospital room holding a swaddled baby and slapped me hard across the face without a word. He said I had betrayed him and actually had relations with a foreigner. I couldn't believe it, but I still took the child and looked, it was indeed a mixed-race baby. Wyatt demanded a divorce from me in front of everyone at the hospital, and no matter how I explained, he refused to believe me. He even reported me to the FBI for allegedly colluding with foreigners and suspected of selling state secret, attaching so-called evidence he had found in the study letters of my correspondence with foreigners. I instantly became a despised spy, arrested and sent to prison before my body had recovered, sentenced to 10 years. I suffered endless torture in prison. Finally, on the day of my release, Wyatt embraced Grace and told me the truth, and I realized it had all been a scheme they had orchestrated together. Wyatt held Grace's hand and my biological son's hand, throwing me $500 like charity. He said Grace was accidentally deceived back then and got pregnant. Unlike you, she's too fragile to endure hardship. I had no choice but to switch the 2 children. This $500 is compensation for your 10 years and your innocence. You have a criminal record now, and I've already filed for divorce and gotten together with Grace. Our son also thinks you're not worthy of me. You'd better take care of yourself. My biological son looked at me with disgust. Grace is very good to me, and you've been in prison. I don't want a mom like you. Already weakened by my imprisonment, I was literally killed by their shameless behavior. Thinking of my miserable end in my previous life, while Wyatt climbed higher by stepping on me and lived sweetly with Grace, the hatred in my heart almost burst through my chest. A good father? That's not necessarily true. I smiled coldly, my tone sarcastic. I said I had a cold and needed to go to the hospital, but Wyatt didn't care about me either. It seems his concern for you is indeed much more than for me. Wyatt's expression changed slightly, and he forced himself to remain calm as he explained, "Don't misunderstand, really. You used to be a soldier with good physical condition. Grace is different. She's been frail since childhood. Moreover, her parents were both martyrs and are no longer in this world. Now she's alone with her husband not by her side, so naturally I, as her brother, should take extra care of her." He spoke so righteously, as if he truly had no selfish motives. Before leaving with Grace, Wyatt turned back to add, "If you're not feeling well, just rest in bed. Oh, and don't take cold medicine carelessly, it could affect the baby." The first half was insignificant. The second half was his real point. Noticing his gaze fall on my belly again, I casually brushed him off with a few words, then turned and went upstairs, taking out cold medicine and swallowing it directly. What a joke. That ungrateful child was already gone. What could possibly be affected?